Well, hi, everybody. My name is Ben Dorr. I'm the political director for Minnesota Gun Rights. To all of our normal watchers, this is going to be a little bit different show today because we're going to be airing it post-broadcast on some different venues, including YouTube. This is going to be a little bit different show today than normal. But come on in, guys. We're talking about what's been happening over the last couple of days in the gun rights fight in Minnesota. Right off the bat, there's a link on top of this video. There's a link in the comments section of this video to send your pre-written emails to your senators telling them to grow a titanium spine, and fight for gun owners. Fight for gun owners. Guys, again, we're going to be rebroadcasting this on YouTube. We have a whole different crowd over there. Some different people are going to see this video than who saw it previously. So this is going to be a little bit different video than normal. But guys, for those of you who do not know, I'm going to start from the top here. Session kicked off on the 8th, and we heard a lot of weakness out of the Republican Senate majority, right? We had House Speaker Melissa Hortman promising to pass red flags and universal gun registration during the 2019 session. We have Governor Tim Walz has promised to sign this stuff into law. And so the best chance we have of stopping gun control this year is in the Senate, where we have currently a one-vote Senate Republican majority. So obviously we need to shore up people's spines here. We got to get the Senate to start standing on their own 2 feet and fighting for gun owners. So clearly, and the public statements from Senate Majority Leader Paul Gazelka were abysmal. They range from something of a to we're looking to have a conversation with the anti-gun left. That was what we heard. That's what we've been hearing. And so what did we do? Of course, we went right to St. Paul. We're in Northfield right now. We went to St. Paul, and we set up a meeting with Senate Majority Leader Gazelka. And we sat down with him. We sat down with his chief of staff, with his PR director, and his legislative aide, his chief aide. We all sat down, and they proceeded to try to get Minnesota gun rights off their back. They're basically begging us to support these people over there, do this over there, lay off of them over here. They wanted us to do all of these things for them. And so I said to them, well, that's all fine and dandy, but what are you going to do for gun owners? What are you going to do for gun owners? Because we haven't gotten anything for our Senate majority, not one tiny scrap of pro-Second Amendment legislation for all the work that gun owners put into the 2016 elections, getting them the Senate majority that they have. Well, they tried for well over an hour. They met with us, desperately trying to get us off their back. Anything they can do, anything they can tell us, to get us off their back, they were trying to do. From, oh, I support the Second Amendment, to, don't you know, we're all great. We passed a pro-gun bill back in 2003, 15 years ago. They tried everything they could possibly do. And we said, that's not enough. That's not nearly enough for gun owners. And so what did we do? They asked us for a list. And for those of you who do not know, we have currently in the Senate 2 Republicans who are supporting radical gun control. We have Senator Scott Jensen, who was sponsoring Bloomberg's universal gun registration bill last session, and Paul Anderson, who was doing the exact same thing. And now we have Scott Jensen standing in the Capitol, cuddling Bloomberg activists and posing for pictures. It's all over the internet. You've all seen it by now. And so from our perspective, we don't have a pro-gun majority in the Senate. from our perspective, we've got to make sure these people don't betray gun owners. We can't take anything for granted. We can't take anything for granted. Nothing, because we are so close to losing our gun rights. And so, Paul Gazelka, some people, they call him Mr. Rogers because he's such a nice guy. Well, I'm a nice guy. I like nice people. I think we all more or less like nice people. But if you're too soft-hearted, if you're too nice that you're willing to do deals with anti-gunners, you shouldn't be involved in politics. If you're too nice to look a leftist in the eye and say, you're not going to take my guns, not in a million freaking years. If you're not willing to do that, then you shouldn't be a legislator, and you sure as heck should not be the Senate Majority Leader. Again, a lot of people are going to be watching this video who don't normally watch here on Facebook Live. So it's a little different video. We're recapping a bunch of stuff. So bear with me if you've heard a bunch of this already. Lori Jones says, watching from Jamestown, Ohio, proud OGO member. Guys, my brother Chris runs Ohio gun owners. They beat the ever-living crap out of John Kasich, who is trying to pass red flag gun seizures as his last step before he left the governor's office in Ohio. And thanks to people like Lori Jones watching right here, my brother Chris with Ohio gun owners, they got that shut down. So good on them. So we're putting pressure on these Republican senators who are pushing for gun control. And so Paul Gazelka, at the end of our meeting, he had his chief aide, Matt Steele. They pulled us aside. They pulled me aside and said, hey, we'll talk over here. So I went into Matt's office, dimly lit, and he said, all right. So we heard what you've been talking about for the last hour. We know you guys aren't very happy with us. What can we do to start moving the ball forward for gun owners? And they start using all this sort of political lingo, like starting the discussion and different stuff like that we've all heard a million times. And I said, I'll send you a list. I'll send you a list of what you can do. And he goes, that sounds great. Yeah, that sounds great. So we came back to the office, talked to our board of directors, and came up with a game plan. We gave them a roadmap to victory. A roadmap to victory is what we gave them. We said, yank Scott Jensen back in line and Paul Anderson and make sure they don't sponsor this gun control legislation. Make sure they don't vote for it. As the Senate Majority Leader, that is Paul Gazelka's, it's one of his major roles, is making sure that his caucus is more or less going in the same direction. It's his job to make sure that so-called pro-gun Republicans aren't voting for radical leftist gun control. We said, do that. That's something you can do right off the bat. We said, you should come out with a press release, come out with a strong statement opposing red flags, gun confiscations, and universal background checks. Do that. Make sure the public knows that the answer to crime, the answer to so-called mass shootings, the answer to these things is more freedom for law-abiding gun owners. It's passing stand your ground law. It's passing constitutional carry. These are things that these Republican legislators as candidates have been running on for years. They all say what champions of the Second Amendment they are. And so we said, you should come out with a strong statement in support of stand your ground law and in opposition to this gun control legislation. We said, this is a great idea. It's good for you. It's good for gun owners because as you guys, and I know you agree with this, if you agree with this, give me a thumbs up. And this is what I told them. I said, if you fight for gun owners will fight for you. If you fight for us, we'll fight for you. If you'll pass pro-gun legislation, gun owners will reward you with votes at election time. If you'll fight for the Second Amendment, then Second Amendment supporters will fight for you. Apparently that message didn't get across. just didn't get across. So we said, it's the best play for you and for us if you would just pass stand your ground law and make the anti-gun left vote against it. Give us votes to use against these anti-gun radical politicians at election time. Give us something to mobilize gun owners against. It's a good play from every different angle you can possibly think. It's a good political play. It gives you the freedom you deserve, and it helps them out too, and we're okay with that as long as they're fighting for gun owners, as long as they're fighting for our rights and our freedoms, as long as they're passing pro-gun policy when they have majorities. We're totally fine if that stuff helps them win their re-elections. But it's when they use the Second Amendment as a great big bargaining chip, as talking points, where they say, oh, I'll support this and I'll support that. And year after year after year, they co-sponsor pro-gun legislation with never any hearings, never any votes, with never any intention to pass this stuff. So I said, give us a list. That's what Paul Gazelka's office told us. That give us a list of what you want. So we gave them the list. It wasn't much. It wasn't much. But it was a roadmap to victory for gun owners and for them, which we're not super concerned about that. We're infinitely more concerned about you, about your gun rights, about your freedom, about protecting our families. That is our concern here, not politicians, but it just so happens that it would help them too, and that's okay. And so we gave them this list, and what did we hear? We heard nothing. Days went by. I sent some emails. Hey guys, just wanted to make sure you got my email. Nothing. Total silence. Total silence. So clearly we were being stonewalled. So I drove up to St. Paul. It's about a 40-minute drive for me. Not too bad. Made it up to St. Paul, and I went right over to Paul Gazelka's office. And I sat down and I waited for him to get out of his meeting with whoever it was he was talking to, because I was going to get to the bottom of this. Are you going to fight for gun owners, or are you going to flake off? Are you going to make sure that your caucus is in line voting against gun control legislation, or are you going to flake? Or are you going to cave to the anti-gun pressure? Well, I was sitting right outside their office. They knew I was there. They were not happy that I was there, but there was no other doorway for them to walk out of. So they came walking out of the office and made a beeline for the elevator. And I said, hey, gun owners would sure like an answer to the question on what you're going to do. And we sent you the list you asked for. What are you going to do for gun owners? And Gazelka, he turns to me and he goes, nah, we're not going to be doing any of those things. We're not going to be doing any of the stuff that you asked. We're going to keep working with these guys over here, and we're going to do whatever. We're not going to do anything that you asked us to do. And I said, hold on a minute here. I said, you as the Republican Senate Majority Leader, you're not going to bother to come out in opposition to red flag gun confiscations and universal background checks? Silence. Said, you are not going to make sure that Scott Jensen is on the straight and narrow here. You're the Senate Majority Leader. It's your job to make sure that he doesn't betray gun owners. And he goes, that's between you guys and him. It's like I was talking to some random guy walking down the street asking him to go make sure some senators voted the right way. Just kind of like, well, who am I? I'm basically a nobody. I said, so let me get this straight so that our members and supporters can know you're not going to come out strong in support of the Second Amendment. You're not going to do anything that we asked you to do. You're not going to move a stand your ground bill. You're not going to make sure that your anti-gun Republican Senate members are back in line. You're not going to do any of that. And he said no. And he walked away. He and his chief aide just walked away, walked down the hallway, and that was it. That was it. Word for word. Since then, I've had a couple of legislators tell me, you really should tell the truth. I don't know what else I can say. That's word for word what came out of their mouths. That's exactly what happened here. And so what did we do? What did we do? Hey, we told people. We came out. We said, hey, this is what just happened. It happened a few minutes ago. For those of you watching this afterwards on YouTube, if you want to watch the video of us moments after this conversation with Senator Gazelka, the link is in the description of this video on YouTube. You can watch the video there. It's got well over 30,000 views right now. A lot of people are watching it. It's good stuff. And so that's all we did. We just told gun owners the truth about what's happening. We didn't cover it up. We didn't sugarcoat it. We didn't come back around and try to fill your ears full of fluff. We simply told the truth. And the truth is that Paul Gazelka is a weak man. He doesn't have the heart. He doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to lead a Senate caucus. He's a weak man in his heart. Oh, they say he's an evangelical Christian. He's all of these things. Well, I'll come right down and say it. I am too. I am too. I know some of you aren't. That's totally fine. But don't hide. Don't hide behind that stuff, Gazelka. Be bold in your leadership for your caucus. Stand up. You know, a gun owner told me on the phone not 20 minutes ago, we were talking about this. He called and he said, what happened to letting your yes be yes and your no be no? What happened to yes be yes and no be no? That's all we're talking about here. Paul Gazelka, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Because as far as I'm concerned, I've got more respect for radical, anti-gun people like Ron Latz. Ron Latz, I hate everything the man stands for. He hates everything I stand for. But I never have to sit here and wonder, is Ron Latz going to stab me in the back? No, because Ron Latz is trying to stab me in the chest. And I respect that more than a double-timing, sweet-talking, sugar-coating, pro-gun wannabe who's pretending to be one thing and doing something else. Let your yes be yes and your no be no, Paul. That's why we're asking everybody right now, click on the link on top of this video. For those of you on Facebook watching this live right now, if you're watching on YouTube, click the link in the description to send your pre-written message to your senator. It's all right there. You type it in one time and you can send a pre-written email. You don't have to look up their email address. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is press send after you type in your information one time only. Send a pre-written email to your senators telling them to grow a titanium spine, because this is what Minnesota needs. This is what the Second Amendment needs. Our state is moving left all the time. We need bold leadership, unapologetic leadership. We need fighters fighting on behalf of our rights and our freedoms and the things we cherish most. We need leadership. We don't need more politicians. We don't need people talking out of both sides of their mouths. We don't need any more of that. We have too much. We have too much. We have too much. And so I during my meeting with Senator Gazelka, I said, we saw what happened on November 6, 2018. We saw that the House Republican majority was destroyed. It was destroyed by the Democrats. I said, do you guys stop and do like a post-operations, like a little looking over, like think about, I wonder how we got messed up so bad. I said, I'll tell you how. Kurt Dowd killed all the pro-gun legislation. They had hearings on gun control. They jacked up our taxes by $6 billion. They passed taxpayer funding for abortions. Yes, you heard that. Paul Gazelka included, voted for those bills, taxpayer funding for abortions, Obamacare, MNLARS, the whole thing was all done by Republicans. And lo and behold, Republican voters did not go out to the polls and reelect those guys. So I said, Paul, and now he doesn't want me to tell you this story. He doesn't want me to talk about our meeting, but I'm going to. I said, Paul, I said, they got destroyed The Republican majority in the House got destroyed in 2018 because they didn't fulfill any of their campaign promises to gun owners or to anybody for that matter on our side of the spectrum. Do you know what he told me? He said, no, so that wasn't us. That was all Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the reason we lost in 2018. That radical? Donald Trump is the reason we lost. They're blaming it all on Donald J. Trump, our president. Now, I'm no big fan of what's been happening with gun rights and President Trump. We've been the first people to call him out for supporting like the bump stock ban and things like that. We'll be the first ones to say it. But everybody knows the man's fighting tooth and nail against a radical left. He's bringing a hammer down on people who have needed it for decades. The guy is going to war on behalf of Americans. And I believe that President Trump loves America, that he loves patriotism, that he's not just your average guy. That's what I believe about President Trump. And so you'll have the Paul Gazelkas of the world stand up there and talk big and say, I'm a Donald Trump kind of guy. And then they turn right around and go, we lost the election because of Donald Trump. Shame on them for not taking any responsibility for what's going on. So for those of you watching this who are in Paul Gazelka's district, please reach out to him. Tell him to grow a spine. Tell him to stand up for the Second Amendment. Tell him to let his yes be yes and his no be no. That's what needs to happen here, not this nonsense. And now I know a lot of gun owners have been doing just that. A lot of gun owners have been reaching out to Paul Gazelka saying, hey, it's time to man up. It's time to man up for gun owners. And you know what Paul Gazelka's doing? He's attacking Minnesota gun rights. He's sending out a video that claims that we are frauds, that we are liars and scammers, that we're thieves. And the way he can prove that is because my brothers and I do gun rights politics in multiple states. Yes, we do. We love the Second Amendment. We love gun rights. My brother Aaron runs Iowa Gun Owners, where they passed Stand Your Ground law, and they're on the cusp of passing constitutional carry law. My brother Chris works for Ohio Gun Owners, where they slapped the crap out of John Kasich, who was hell-bent to pass red flags gun seizure legislation. Collectively, we worked with the Missouri Firearms Coalition with great representatives down there. Jared Taylor, the lead sponsor for that Stand Your Ground and constitutional carry law, passed into law in 2016, in 2017 now, in Missouri, in Wyoming, working with Senator Anthony Bouchard, the lead sponsor of Stand Your Ground law out in Wyoming. We passed Stand Your Ground in Wyoming just last year, and we're damn proud of it. We're proud. We love it. We love the Second Amendment. We love it. And and if there's a fight happening, we're going to be there. We're going to be there. And we're unapologetic about it. And we've been very successful. And we have rallied hundreds of thousands and millions of gun owners across America to pass pro-gun legislation and to stop gun control. And I will never apologize for it. And shame on Paul Gazelka for lying to gun owners and trying to deceive them into thinking that what our fighting for gun rights, that our work on behalf of the Second Amendment makes us scammers and con artists. The only scammer and con artist here is you, Paul Gazelka. You're the one making the promises and not delivering. You are the one who says one thing and does another. Not us. Not us. So for those of you reaching out to Paul Gazelka, he'll be sending you back a video link from a fake group in Iowa who's attacking Iowa gun owners for trying to pass constitutional carry down there. And he will be sending that out to gun owners who contact him as proof that we are bad people, that we are bad people. Well, again, if fighting for gun rights makes me bad, then I'm positively evil. I'm positively evil. If passing pro-gun legislation makes me a bad person, then we're just evil to the core, because we've been passing it all over the country and we're not going to apologize for it. And feel free to tell that to Paul Gazelka. Tell him to quit sidestepping what's happening here. Quit trying to cover up for the fact that he refuses to fight for gun owners, that he refuses to keep his caucus in line, that he refuses to oppose gun control legislation. Tell him to stand up for the Second Amendment and stop being such a wimp. Such a wimp. Guys, send this message right now. There's a link in the comments. There's a link on top of this video. And for those of you watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description of this video. Send your pre-written email to your senator telling them to fight for gun owners. Enough of the games. Enough of the nonsense. It's time to fight. It's time to stand strong. It's time to stand proud. Stand proud. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of my wife. I'm proud of my 2 boys. I'm proud of Minnesota gun rights. I'm proud of you guys. I'm proud of the pro-gun legislation we've passed. I'm proud of loving my family, my God, my guns. I'm proud. I'm a proud man, maybe too proud. But I will never look you in the eye and tell you a lie and feed you a line of crap. I will stand proudly for what I believe in, and I'll fight for it every minute of every day. And Paul Gazelka should do the same. Stand proud for what you believe in and stop playing games with our freedom. Stop playing games with our rights. Stop playing games with the laws that will allow us to protect our wives and our kids, our husbands, our loved ones, our neighbors, our communities. Guys, if you agree, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with what I'm talking about here. I know you do. It's time for these guys to deliver for gun owners. It's time for them to stop blaming our president for your lost seats last election. That happened because of your own selves, legislators. You did it to yourselves. Fight for us and we'll fight for you. Fight for gun owners and gun owners will fight for you. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Stop lying to the Second Amendment community and start delivering. Start delivering. Guys, please, last thing, share this video with your family, your friends. We've been getting tremendous reach on our Facebook page lately. And I want to throw out here one more thing. I'm sure you've seen it by now. We have a petition pinned on the top of our Facebook page opposing red flags, gun confiscations. And that petition has been signed more than 10,000 times. 10,000 times from gun owners in Minnesota. So we're doing fantastically. Your pressure has been amazing. Your generosity is amazing. And your guys' energy to oppose this stuff is phenomenal. The meme itself has been shared on Facebook 88,800 times. It's been shared in Minnesota alone. Nearly 9,000 shares. You guys are amazing. You're fantastic. And we're going to be delivering all of those petitions to the Capitol the moment there are committee hearings scheduled on this gun control. We're going to be dropping this stuff in opposition to this gun control. And I just want to tell you that because I thought that was fantastic. It's really good news. You guys are doing great. You're doing fantastic. And we're going to come back with more updates here pretty quick. Let's see here. Don Deckert says, talking relentlessly isn't passing any legislation. Where are the pro-gun politicians backing you up? Maybe use some of the dues sent to you to get actual politicians coming up with pro-gun laws in our defense. Well, Don, I don't know where you've been, Don. I can only assume you're not a member of Minnesota Gun Rights. You want us to use some dues to get some politicians on board. Guys, would you like us to hand all of your membership dues to politicians and get them to stand up here and feed you a line of nonsense? because that's usually what happens. And in case you haven't been paying attention, Don, these so-called pro-gun legislators are stabbing us in the back right and left. They're not standing up for the Second Amendment. When we find some, we'll be sure to tell you. We'll be sure to tell you. And as for the membership dues that are being sent to us, they're being used to run program in targeted districts all across Minnesota right now. From the petitions, we've got radio ads being made, door-to-door lit drops. We're going to do direct mail in targeted districts. We have major programs being rolled out that cost money. So we're going to be, that's what we're going to do with it. If we find any stalwart defenders of the Second Amendment in St. Paul, we'll be the first ones to tell you. But until then, we're not in the business of padding the pockets of politicians. This is how America got where it is right now. It's slick, greasy lobbyists padding the pockets of politicians, saying one thing, doing another, and always selling you guys out. That is not Minnesota gun rights. It never, ever has been. Never has been. Never will be. Let's see here. Lawrence has also sent the same on Messenger to turncoats Paul Anderson and Scott Jensen. It's on my page. Copy and paste it. A lot of you guys are reaching out to these senators, putting heat on them. Do it. I love 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 it. I get messages all the time from gun owners who say, every single day that I wake up, I send an email to these legislators telling them to man up. Daily correspondence with these guys is fantastic. It's fantastic. Pressure, 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 pressure. Dave Peterson says, no compromise. It's that simple. We totally agree. We totally agree. Lot going on, you guys. Let's see here. Robert and Shelley says he says all these groups lie and he's pro Second Amendment. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about Scott Jensen or Paul Anderson? Could be. Probably. You know, politicians lie. They lie a lot. We know that. Guys, share this video. Please share the link. Share the link on top of this video. Send your pre-written email, your pre-written message. And don't believe the lies coming out of the Capitol, because right now these guys are desperate. They're desperate to get gun owners off their back. They're desperate to get you guys to leave them alone. So if they can lie to you, if they can spin you, if they can say, well, Minnesota gun rights are frauds, and instead of you putting heat on them, you have to sit there and contemplate whether or not that's true. The whole thing is a giant ruse to get gun owners to not put heat on them. It's politics. It's political spinning 101. We've seen it 1,000 times, and it continues to happen. And again, we're unapologetic about our support for the Second Amendment. So, guys, I'm going to hop off for right now. Got a lot of things happening. We'll have more updates very, very soon. Oh, Robert and Shelley Anderson says, is Paul Gazelka who says that we're lying. Yeah, he's been telling a lot of gun owners that we're liars, that we're all of these things. No, the only person here lying is Paul Gazelka. He just couldn't buy us off at the Capitol last week. He just couldn't silence us by filling our ears full of fluff. He sat there like he does with so many lobbyists and just spun a line of BS, expecting me to sit there and go, oh, yeah, you bet. Oh, sure, we really appreciate. Oh, thank you so much for taking the time. Kiss the ring, kiss the ring, kiss the ring. We know that's what lobbyists do all day, every day. They're just happy. They're just awed and inspired to be in the presence of the great Senate Majority Leader. That's not Minnesota gun rights. I guess maybe I'm a little too blue collar. You know, maybe I spent a few too many years in my backhoe before I came to work for Minnesota gun rights. I don't know, but I guess I'm just not awed and inspired by politicians. Although I might make an exception if I actually got to meet Donald Trump. Maybe. But certainly not weak legislators like Paul Gazelka. No, not in a million years. And that's why we told him that's not good enough. You have to deliver something for gun owners, not just talk a big game, because you've been talking a big game for a couple years now. So, guys, share this video, and I'll be back with more updates very, very soon. Stay active and let me know what you're hearing. If Gazelka's writing back, let us know. Let us know. We want to know what these politicians are saying, so we can make sure you guys have the truth. So feel free to go right on the backside of Minnesota Gun Rights and shoot us a Facebook message, and send us, I don't know, screenshots, whatever you got. Send us whatever you have that they're responding with, and we are going to keep the heat on here. We're not going to apologize for it, and we're going to keep fighting. I know you guys are going to fight with us. So thanks. Carry on. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next broadcast.